It is. It's Friday, July the 11th. And just want to say, you can hear us in a lot of ways, but get this. This is the small turtle box out at Hewlett and Dunn on the square in Collierville, Tennessee. You can hear us live on that at the beach, and it's magnetic. It'll even attach to the side of anything.
So you can't even screw it up.
Yeah, not even Jethro Bodine could mess it up. Hey, Rob Brown in Memphis, Brendan Martin in Ocala. Got a great lineup today. Take a picture with your phone of the QR code. We have a lot to cover today. We're on Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, 7 channels live, 8 shows. Come to this channel every day. We got a great one today. The College Roundtable. Doug Dean from the Amalfi Coast over in Italy. That's our farthest guest ever, but he's a member of the Roundtable, so he's still the farthest call-in ever. Frank Duffy, north of Atlanta, and Heath Cline, executive producer, a big part, like I would say, co-host of the Chuck Oliver Show. Listen to him every day with Chuck, Brendan Martin, and I, and Frank, all ready to talk some football. And on this Friday, July 11th, Heath, thank you for taking time to join us. Appreciate you being on here with us. I know you work pretty much nonstop. Do you do Chuck's show from 2 to 6 every day as well?
No, Dan used to do that. I don't have to do that one. I just can focus on the Chuck Oliver Show, and then I do a bunch of stuff hosting on my own to 680, kind of wherever they need a live body. I just jump in there.
Gotcha. I want to say you're what we love on this show. You are everywhere. You're ubiquitous. You were in Frisco, Texas this past week at Big 12 Media Days. A lot going on out there. A lot of it is fortuitous. It's a harbinger of things to come. I think for SEC Media Days, I'm going to hand the ball off to you. As Dan Matthews would always say, put the ball in your guest's hand, engage them, and let them roll.
Yeah, it was fascinating to be there. I actually went for the first time last year to Big 12 Media Days when it was in Vegas, and I was curious because I only went for one day last year because we were on our way to vacation. And so I just stopped through since I was in town anyway and said, I might as well get a look and see what they're about. They do some things really differently than the SEC. And so I was curious this year back in Frisco, a little more natural territory than in Vegas. What would it be like? And this conference, regardless of whether or not you're a fan of any team in the conference, is by far the most open conference. And we saw it last year. You had Arizona State go from the picked run of the litter to winning. And frankly, you think about the first week of the playoffs, they were the only team that gave any of the teams that they saw a serious run. Like they took Texas to double overtime, probably should have beaten them. So you just look at that and you say, yeah, this is a wide open conference with some really interesting players and people, and went and checked it out. And I will say their commissioner too, Brett Yormark, I'm not saying that he's the best commissioner. That's a different conversation. But he's certainly so different in how he handles things for his conference than, say, Jim Phillips for the ACC, who seems to wish that we were still living in a world where there's black and white TVs and pops 10 cents and everything else. Brett Yormark some of his ideas may be goofy, but that dude's focused on the future. And I think hearing what he had to say is valuable too.
I thought too, it was interesting hearing you and Chuck talk. I guess it was Wednesday night that they bring the mascots and cheerleaders out before the coaches come up there. And then they had an 8-coach roundtable up on the stage. I would love to see that at SEC Media Days.
Now, shots fired.
Yeah. And Heath, I don't know how many emails you've received from Craig Pinkerton of the SEC office about that picture we have to have for our credentials. I had to take 6 or 7 attempts. The last one was, sorry, no hats. I had a visor on. My wife goes, are you kidding me? So anyway, talk about that, because I think that's something that could work.
Well, I like the idea. Yeah, theirs is 2 days, and so they just bang it right through. Whereas the SEC, you have 2 teams come out and they cycle them through a zillion rooms over the course of about 3 to 4 hours. They do it all just one after the next. The coaches get up there on a big stage in front of everybody, and they have 15 minutes, and then there's a 5-minute break in between, and then the next coach. So they cycle through 8 at a time, and as soon as the 8th was done, with our 5-minute DJ break, because we did have that. I swear that's true. We're not just talking about like you're eating at a restaurant and they play a song over the speaker. No. This is a DJ. He's mixing. He's scratching.
So mix a lot.
The whole bit. But yeah, then they brought them all up, and it was really interesting to see them interact with each other, because that's the one thing. Like, if you're at SEC Media Days, Kirby Smart might be walking around and run into, I don't know, Josh Heupel's coming in, and they might, give a wave or shake hands, but they don't interact. This was watching guys interact. And while they didn't sit next to whoever they wanted to, they sat them across the stage in the same order that they came up. So you didn't get to see kind of like who's a little closer to somebody else. You could still just sort of see the body language occasionally. It was like, oh yeah, I like this guy, or that guy's talking. It was very interesting. It's one of the ideas I wish the SEC would steal, if not for media days, for some event. I wish there was some equivalent to that.
Yeah, I do too. Frank?
Well, I just think it's amazing. I mean, think of this. What was the old saying by the infamous Mark Twain that said, the news of my demise was greatly over-exaggerated? Well, I mean, the fact that we're even talking about a Big 12 is amazing, that they were able to cobble that new conference together. I think they got great storylines. I mean, besides the Arizona State ascending to the top of the heap last year, you now have this interesting thing at Colorado where they had success, but now they've lost all this talent. Where do they go? Every time of the year at this time, Rob and I and Doug and all of the guys that come on, our regulars, we just marvel at the storylines. Heath, what storylines do you see coming out of the Big 12, and what's going to captivate us, and where do you see that shakeout early of that conference? What is going to be maybe the surprise team out of the Big 12?
Well, I think you can make a case, first of all, that the game between Baylor and Auburn week 1 is as important for the conference and for both teams as any game anybody's going to play this year. Clemson LSU is a better game, but neither of those teams, if they lose that game, necessarily does massive damage to the status of their conference, more so for Clemson. But again, if Clemson loses and then wins, they still are going to go to the playoff, and they can see what they can do there. But for Baylor, if Baylor proceeds to go out and lose at home to Auburn, then immediately people are going to say, yeah, see, this is why you could say all you want. You should be a 2-team conference. This is why you're a 1-team conference. You guys can't even hang with a mid-tier at best SEC team. And everybody at Auburn is pretty cranky with Hugh Freeze. If you look at that schedule, if they lose that first game, the 2-4 start looks extremely realistic. They're going to have to beat somebody they shouldn't if they lose that Baylor game to not be 2-4. And you guys know how Auburn operates. If they're 2-4, people are going to want blood. And
Rob would be going. Rob and Doug would be going to the Amalfi Coast if that happened.
Exile.
So that first week alone, that game is fascinating. But you have some coaches that are veteran guys that might be at the end. I mean, Kirk, in the case of what you've got at Oklahoma State, I don't know that Gundy's putting this back together, regardless whether you like Gundy, don't like Gundy. Some of us are bigger fans than others. But I think there's a real question whether he can put Humpty Dumpty back together again. And Kyle Willingham flat out said, I can't go out like that, but he's right on the edge of leaving anyway. They brought a kid in, Devin Dampier from New Mexico, that most people have not seen play because New Mexico, why would you? But everybody agrees, special athlete, maybe not special passer, special athlete. How much better, if they can just stay healthy, how much better can that program be? Because a lot of people would have thought they could win the conference last year. If they don't have a good year, how many times can you say, well, I can't go out like this? Well, that's soon. No one's going to fire Kyle Whittingham, but sooner or later, if you're ready to go, you might have to go out like that. So those two guys in particular, as some of the only coaches who've been on this stage since the 2000s or longer, I'm really curious to see what their futures look like.
Cody Campbell, Texas Tech, has a lot of money. So does A&M. So does Texas. Since 1970, the state of Texas has produced one national champion, 2005 Texas. Phil Campbell's got Texas Tech at like 6 or 7. What did you take away from hearing, about Texas Tech, their program and all? Guns up.
Guns up, baby.
Yeah, I mean, look, they're still going to be good, but there are some real questions. First of all, we don't know how good a coach Joey McGuire is. He's got new coordinators this year. He seems to have been a very good head coach in high school. He's very well liked. That's one thing I'll say about him, is that you can tell that the colleagues like him, but you can like a guy and he still might not be a great head coach. We don't know enough about whether or not Joey McGuire, if it's a tight situation, can he make the right calls to win those kind of games? So that's a question. But they do have new coordinators that I think people really like and believe are better than what they had last year. I'm not sure people are sold on the overall staff. The coordinators may be better. This is a staff that feels still very much like it's built for Texas recruiting, but you may not have enough Texas coaching. And that's the thing that I do wonder about with them. Their quarterback, for all the improvements they've made, they've still got the same guy at quarterback. And I'm not 100% sure you're going to get 12 healthy games out of him, too. I think Texas Tech, you tell me they're going to win this conference. I can't tell you, oh, that's ridiculous. I don't think they should be the favorite. I think if you're making them the favorite, you're maybe buying a little much in on the money hype, because
Fool's gold.
what Campbell's doing is extraordinary. There's no doubt. It's extraordinary. But I still think there's some real questions there.
Frank, go ahead.
Well, no, I was just going to say, Rob, it comes down to wins and losses.
Yeah,
I mean, just like with the Gundy. I mean, I'm shocked the ghost of T. Boone Pickens didn't rise up, from the complex and snatch him up. It's going to come down to the wins and the losses, and it's going to come down to the early games, like you say. I agree with you. I think the Baylor-Auburn game is going to be huge as well. If Baylor gets off to a quick start, they can win the conference. They've got they got talent. I mean, my old friend can coach and he can recruit. So, I think it's a wide open conference, like you said, Heath. I think you could have 5 or 6 teams. You could make a point for them. I agree with you that I think Texas Tech's a little fool's gold. I think they're getting pumped up. I saw the Pete Athlon magazines have now hit the stands. I haven't read mine yet, but it wouldn't shock me if if they don't have them at the top as well. So where do you see these coaches like a Gundy? I mean, when you've played really well and you've had teams and you've coached well, you get some gravitas. But an 0-9, that's gone. That's immediately gone. Who else do you see on the hot seat in the Big 12?
You mentioned, I mean, Gundy, if it wasn't for the fact that Gundy is who he is, and also that the contract was what it was, he's gone.
Yeah.
They've redone the contract. Like, he had to still agree to some things just to hang on for another year. The comments he made, that's the problem for him. It's not just about the body of work. It's that you've alienated people over the last few years with a lot of different things, whether it was the political stuff around 2020, which is pretty well chronicled. But last year, he made this comment that basically said, anybody who complains is a loser and is poor. And it's like, whoa. Who do you think the Oklahoma State fan base is? I mean, yes, you've got some rich people, some well people.
Yeah,
but
you do.
Oklahoma State's fan base is not a bunch of billionaires, man. When you start implying that the reason that you don't find an 0-9 season okay is because you some broke boys, I'm sorry, that was suicide for him with his image with the public. I don't know what he could have been thinking of doing that. And so if he doesn't turn it around this year, I think it's going to absolutely be, you got to go, man. And
yeah, I agree.
Who they want next, what the next, I have no idea, but I think he's by far the most in danger. Deion Sanders is not in danger, obviously getting pushed out.
Yeah.
But when you look at the health problems he's had, it at least has cracked the door open for him to, if things don't go well this year, maybe be able to say, you know what, I did what I could for Colorado, but
an honorable exit
me from being able to do what I'd like to do. I don't think that's his plan. He came off very confident on stage and healthy and seemed like he was fine. But I do think you have to at least wonder, because that is a very hard job.
Yeah.
And remember, Deion Sanders has never really coached without his son. He's coached without Travis Hunter. He hasn't coached without his son. I don't know what happens when he has to adapt to life without Superman. And that guy's just so preposterous. Like, what happens now? So that's one I would also kind of keep my eye on at least a little bit.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. The Deion, I heard your comments about he was very open about everything, which is good. And it's you don't want to be the coach that follows him at Big 12 Media Days. Flipping ahead a few pages, SEC Media Days. I'll be heading to Atlanta Sunday at the Omni downtown Centennial Park. Be 1,500 media people from all over the country. I know you and Chuck will be down on Digital Row, whatever they call it. It's a massive event. What are you looking and what do you want to hear from coaches? What are you primarily looking to take away from SEC Media Days? And you can make a legitimate comparison between Big 12 Media Days and SEC Media Days.
Well, the SEC, of course, it's 4 coaches per day as opposed to the circus that is just zooming through 8 in a row like that. And so you get more attention paid to certain guys. I think, frankly, the SEC, I don't quite understand how they scheduled this year. You look at it, the fact that last year we had it in Dallas. The Texas schools and Oklahoma were in the final 2 days because they had the All-Star game going on in Dallas. So for local media, especially local TV stations, you created a major, major conflict if you put those things on Monday or Tuesday. So they said, well, the whole point of us being here is these schools getting featured. We'll put them on Wednesday, Thursday. You got Kirby Smart going up against the All-Star game. Why in the world did you do that? I don't understand why that makes any sense to anybody. And you look at their Thursday. The Thursday is 3 schools that are among the most challenged for coverage, and then Texas A&M. I honestly wonder how many media are going to hang around for Thursday, because I just don't think there's that many people dying to hear from Mark Stoops or Eli. And so that is another thing. I don't think they help themselves with the scheduling very much. But look, we're all waiting to see and hear if there's anything new from Greg Sankey. He's going to get up there and do what he always does. He's going to quote either U2 or some Irish poet or something like that. He's going to talk about how every single program in the conference did in every single sport. But at some point, we get down to the actual nitty-gritty of things. And so what is the SEC's policy stance it's going to take publicly on anything about the playoff, about the issues with the Big Ten? I think everybody's waiting on that. The Big 12's whole deal was commissioner says, we want 16 and 5 and 11, and that'd be the fairest thing. And frankly, he's right. Like, if you're just talking about fairness and nothing else, just saying, okay, the 5 best conference champs get in, and the other 11, whoever those 11 are that are the best, put them in and let's play. That's not been what the SEC seemed to want, but the coaches do. So have they sorted this out since back in late May? What does that look like? I'm curious about that. About the teams themselves, I think we're all extremely curious to see how Hugh Freeze tries to present all this. I mean, my goodness, you got people chasing your golf game and literally, look, guys, I don't play golf. I don't know if y'all do.
Tennis.
Is it that important to keep your handicap perfect that you have to upload every round? Like, I don't know, man. It just seems like maybe you could leave a couple of rounds off. Maybe in your head, what the handicap is. But then we've learned Hugh's not exactly the best at concealing his trails. So maybe that shouldn't surprise us. Regardless, though, when you got people coming for your golf scores to analyze how often you're playing, what message do you have? What explanation? I mean, they trotted out that whole press conference a week ago about, wait and see what happens on August 1st. We'll see if these offers are legit. Okay. Well, what if they are? What if all the kids say, yeah, looks good to me? Then what's the explanation, guys? He in particular, I'm interested in seeing what that tap dance looks like.
Well, I think you're right about the SEC. I personally, I want to see straight seeding, 1 through 16. Just throw it out there. Give me the best 16. I don't like any set-asides, quotas, anything like that. That is just not competitive. But man, Frank, all these storylines at media days, it's not the coach. You don't go to media days to hear those coaches. You go there to meet the people. It's a giant trade show.
Sure.
But I don't want to see just a handful of schools that dominate everything and everybody else is just pushed to the back. I don't want to see that. Well, I love a wide open. I love competition. It's the spice of life.
Well, now that Nick Saban's no longer there, this is the second year we will be having a Saban-less media days when he would come down and the seas would part and coming down the escalator. And you always have that one big surprise. Now, again, I'm not saying expansion is going to be discussed, but when the news dropped about Texas and Oklahoma coming, and Texas A&M was at the mic. there's always a made-for-TV moment that happens. You just don't know what it's going to be. I'm guessing it's going to be about the schedule, like you said, Heath, this year. I mean, that's the big 800-pound gorilla that's in the room. But and to Hugh, your point about Hugh Freeze, I do think it's funny. At least his big worry is golf games. Did this go around and not other confessions
as
that
far as we know.
made?
Yeah.
So hey, look, it's always riveting. It's great theater. It's great drama. I don't know how a conference makes 4 days in July interesting, but the SEC has a way to do it, and it is front and center more than any other conference. It reminds me of Rob being a financial advisor will get a kick out of this. It reminds me of the old E.F. Hutton commercials. When E.F. Hutton talks, people listen. Yeah. Well, people listen to what comes out of the SEC media days. And, Sankey, love him or hate him or be frustrated with him. I know he's not a fan favorite in some places nowadays. Knoxville comes to mind. So who knows what he's going to say? And do you think that there's going to be a surprise drop that's coming in for media days? Do you see anything on the horizon that might upset the apple cart besides doing the schedule?
I don't think there's anything obvious, but again, I mean, the history of this event, we haven't had anything really wild happen in a while. Frankly, it's been a little more low key, but the history of this event, whether it's the time Saban's dog got loose or, the never ending controversy over who dared not vote for Tebow for first team all SEC. And then on the last day, it turns out of all people, it's Spurrier. Those, you never know. Like if you had told me a week before SEC media days, that was going to be a big storyline, I wouldn't have remotely believed you, but it turned into this thing. And if Spurrier had just said, "Oh, no, on me," if he just done that, we would have never gotten an answer. It wasn't like there was any way you could say, you're under oath, confess who did it. And so you would have had people speculating about, it was this guy or that guy, all those different stuff. The only person who was for sure off the hook was you can't vote for your own guy. So everybody knew it wasn't Houston Nutt with Jevin Sneed. But other than that, everybody else was under suspicion. So who knows what it's going to be? I mean, we don't, as far as we know, no coach is going to get served with papers at this thing. But that's happened before too. I literally had to hold a mic to a speaker because Philip Fulmer wouldn't show up because he was afraid he was going to get served papers.
Sure.
Yeah.
The valid concern.
Clay Travis launching himself as a national subject of controversy by asking Tim Tebow if he was a virgin. I mean, that's the one thing. In any room at any time, something crazy could happen, and we'll see. There will probably be something this year. I don't know if it'll reach the pantheon of some of those, but I'm sure there'll be something.
Well, since Tebow just had, I think, his second or third child, that question will at least be off the off the board this go around. And by the way, Heath, I every time that we come up to media days, it always reminds me. I used to own a bar at LSU. I ran a couple bars at LSU, but my last bar was called Duffy's Tavern, and it was 1988. And I'll never forget, we did a T-shirt, got in a little trouble with LSU licensing, but we did a little T-shirt with the SEC, Duffy Tavern on the front, but on the back, it was all of the characters of the SEC because we were hosting the basketball tournament that year. And I sold T-shirts before the tournament, and it looked like a dysfunctional family like picture that you would take at Thanksgiving, but with all of the mascots in their character of the particular college, right? So it reminds me of media days. We get all of the relatives in the room, no turkey, but all the relatives are in the room, and there's no telling what sort of family backbiting or squabbles or innuendo or stuff comes out, and that's the juicy part of this. It's getting all the relatives from around the country to all show up, even though they're not in the same room at the same time. They overlap, and that to me is great. And if you can pull off, Heath, the round table of getting all of them on stage at one time. It's like the five families in New York meeting at a dinner at studios back in the 70s. If you can pull that off, you would be able to sell pay-per-vision to watch that. That would be outstanding to see all the personalities at play.
Well, and it's interesting because you do have something a little closer to that at the spring meetings down in Destin. And I wonder if maybe we're going to see the SEC do more with that. Like right now, it's like, oh, Paul Feinbaum's on the beach and here's Lane Kiffin with him.
Yeah.
Maybe at some point they take something like what you're talking about, make it more of an event down there or something. I don't know, but it would be fascinating stuff to see. You know what? The other thing I am curious about too is last year, Oklahoma, when they came to this event, they came with a full-on log on their shoulder, not a chip.
Yes, they did.
They were so offended that anybody was suggesting that they were going to be like ninth in this conference. How dare you? We are Oklahoma. We have Heisman Stadium statues, literally the length of the stadium. We got Heisman statues. Of course, we're going to come in and we're going to be a high-end competitor in this conference right away. Those people are terrified of being Nebraska. It is what keeps them up at night. The idea they're in a new conference and they will get exposed in some way like Nebraska was in the Big Ten, and they will live to go 9-3 in a good year and 8-4, 7-5 in more years. And, hey, we're going to the Liberty Bowl. That's their nightmare.
Come on to me.
How they handle that first year and what gets said this year, I am really curious about.
Well, I agree with you. I was in the room at the Winfrey Hotel in Hoover, July of 21. Jimbo Fisher's up on the podium, and I think I know who the reporter was that brought it up, but I'm not sure, so I'm not going to say it. But he said, any comments about the speculation that Texas and OU are inquiring about membership into the SEC? And I looked at the guy next to me and I said, they're already in. They wouldn't have made a statement like that if it wasn't done. People were going, all it takes is 3 no votes. Well, the way it works is like the families, the Gambinos, the Stellacis, the Stilettos, they get together and they just say, okay, here's how it's going to be. Well, I'm going to flip that. The lack of transparency, selling a lot of stocks and bonds. You have publicly traded corporations. You have a board of directors. You also have full transparency. If you see someone on Fox Business or CNBC, they have to make it perfectly transparent. Do you own shares in the company that you're talking about?
Disclose their positions.
By God, these are state universities, with the exception of Vanderbilt. These coaches shouldn't have the right to dodge public appearances. They shouldn't have the right to not talk to the local media. They should not have the right to ignore the writers who bust their ass, who tell your stories. Sometimes you don't like what they say. I think there should be open record, the sunshine laws like we have in Tennessee. These coaches and say, let me tell you something. Just like senators and congressmen, you're just errand boys for your constituents. They need to start realizing, Buddy Martin said it best, who owns college football? The fans. We've got to get back to that. That's why it's so critical, and I love having you on. We got to bring you back about what went on in the Big 12. Hey, man, have some fun. You can't have a new reality with an old mentality. We got to change some things, and these coaches need to become – look, Ralph Jordan Jr., Shug Jordan's son, is a friend of mine. He said, Rob, he goes, I remember one time as a kid, we were out at Lake Martin. Mom and dad had a place. Coach Bryant and his wife, Mary Harmon, had a place. And all the parents, all the adults were inside, and I was out on the porch watching Gunsmoke. And Coach Bryant came out and he said, Junior, you mind if I watch a cowboy movie with you? I mean, people don't realize these coaches were friends. They also respected one another. In public, there was a lot of vitriol.
Brian and Di.
Yeah. Oh, loved him like a father. Yeah. And Shug, Ralph Jr.'s godfather's Wally Butts, Butts-Mehre Heritage Hall. Coach Butts didn't let you have water when he was coaching at Georgia. Heath, you and Chuck, and we do it too, tell the story, the history, the traditions, and the heroes. So every day you get to talk football in the South, and then you bounce out. We're going to bring an Oregon guy on. David Bartooth, I just wanted to tell you, thank you so much for that connection.
Interesting cat.
That guy's awesome. And lives in the mountains about 40 miles out of Portland. And y'all have some incredible guests. How much show prep do you put in every day? 8-10 hours or more?
Oh, I mean, to me, you just kind of perpetually your show prep.
Yeah, exactly.
Chuck, my Lord.
Chuck I didn't mean to be disrespectful.
Show prep.
Yeah.
One of the things about Chuck is that Chuck will just randomly, honestly, I don't know how he does it.
It's a walking encyclopedia.
Because we have the same 2 hours the day before Ohio State, Michigan, and Auburn, Alabama as we do in the middle of May. And he'll just come in, and I don't know why, but he'll suddenly have a thought on Hayden Fry. And so he'll do 10 minutes on Hayden Fry. You got me, man. I don't know how he does it. But he's extraordinary at what he does, and we have a good time with it. But yeah, I mean, you scour the internet, you try and find every little nugget, and you never know what you can turn into 4 minutes here, 8 minutes there, and hopefully entertain people and just inform them a little bit.
And though he and Matt have bounced back and forth of each other on the Chuck and Cherno show for a year, I was a long time endorser. Did our road trips with the guys. In fact, I brought them all up in Bengal 1 up to the Georgia Notre Dame game. Matt, Brian Hoyt, the whole crew, Los. But the thing that Chuck is really great on the college sports today, college football today, is he can hold the microphone until you step in. He can hold the microphone and talk just a soliloquy for 10 minutes. That is so hard to do in radio. Most people don't realize that. And the beauty of Rob's show is that we're bouncing things back off of each other. But to sit and hold the mic for a 10-minute monologue is not easy to do. And I think that's really Chuck's talent. He is so good at doing that. And I mean, I've been I've been a friend of Chuck's for close to 20 years, and it was great for our business. So what you guys do is fantastic. And though I love him and Matt together, what he does on the show, he is able to give all of his information, and it doesn't just have to be the banter. He can dive deep. And that's I think really what has so many people listening to you guys. And I've been privileged to see it from the very beginning when John Neapolitano was actually selling it originally to stations, almost 12, 13, 14 years ago. Very cool.
Yeah, no, it's a great product, and we're happy that people have been adding it. We've got a new affiliate, I guess, just in the last year. We've added Chattanooga, we've added Nashville, we've added Knoxville. So yeah, it's still growing, and hopefully maybe we can head west to some spots that we haven't gotten to yet. So yeah, it's a great show, great product. Chuck does an amazing job of making it all work.
As do you.
And Heath, look, I appreciate you staying long with us. We normally do, 4 guests in an hour, but it's Friday. We kind of change it differently. So if you got to go, you got to go. But this is such a treat because I think you are iron sharpens iron. And I watch shows, I study. Frank and and Brendan, my God, our executive producer, his dad, Buddy, I can't have a better team. But what y'all do, I think what happens in the South, the SEC, we focus on, but you better pay attention to the ACC, the Big 12, the Big 10. It's the tectonic plates theory, because what Deion's doing at Colorado will have reverberations around the country. What are some other compelling storylines, maybe in the Big 10 or in the ACC? A lot of people are high on Clemson. They're one of only 14 schools in college football history to win 9 or more games. 3 schools, 14 years in a row: Florida State, Alabama, and Clemson. Is Dabo swinging a big stick this year? Sounds like he's going to be pretty damn good squad.
Well, I mean, he better, because if you look, I mean, they've got, according to ESPN, one of their draft gurus, they've got 3 of the top 6 players in the upcoming draft, and that's a quarterback and 2 D linemen. So we're not just talking about players; we're talking about players at the most important premium positions. You're not going to have years like that every year. And you went out. I will credit Dabo for finally realizing over the last couple of years this notion that I built this, and so I'm the only one with any ideas of value here. That wasn't working for him. The promotion of guys with no experience anywhere else into critical roles. When you have an offensive line coach, the only experience he's got is grad assistant at your program. Now he's offensive line coach, but he played for you, so he must be the best. Well, that just wasn't true. Their line wasn't good enough. Yeah. They should be hiring people like Matt Luke, and they did, and their line got a lot better. Yeah. Defensive coordinator. The fact that he was arrogant enough to put Wes Goodwin directly on the field without having ever coached a position. Forget about coordinating. Yeah. Hadn't coached a position, and he made him defensive coordinator. I don't care if you're the biggest Rain Man level genius of football ever. There are some basic mechanical things that go with the job you're going to have to learn. And so now you've got an established coordinator in that spot too. I feel like he's at least taken the reins off of Garrett Riley a little bit. So yeah, you've got, if you're Dabo, you have got by far your best combo of coordinators, offensive line coach, and experience that you have had in a decade. You've got to take advantage of it. And with that conference, I would suspect that they'll certainly win that, but are you ready to win one on the national level? You lost all 3 of your SEC games last year. Can you win one of those kind of games this year and show it's not just we're ACC good, we're national good again? They could get there, but I'm going to need to see it, because they have a quarterback in Klubnik that looks good, does some good things, but in critical moments, is he going to make the play for you? I'm not sure he will.
We're going to see early.
Well, Heath, another school, Miami, is intriguing. They've got Florida, goes down there and plays early. John Michaels, I talked with him a couple of weeks ago. Like I said, he does a show at the same time as we do, but I love the people that y'all bring on. They've got everything in the world going for them, but kind of peek inside of Miami with Mario Cristobal. They don't have Cam Ward. They've got, golly, Carson Beck. I don't know what prompted him to leave Georgia, but he didn't have a great year. A lot of people thought he'd be the number 1 pick. I was like, really? No Lad McConkey, no Brock Bowers, not going to happen. But talk about Miami and also another program, Georgia Tech. I've got Georgia Tech. I got Georgia Tech as a surprise team. I have a lot of Tech friends. If you wake up per capita, there are more millionaires that are graduates of Georgia Tech than any school in America, probably. If you get those people, Paces Ferry, Sandy Springs, and Buckhead excited, what can happen with Georgia Tech besides a lot of pocket protectors?
Rob, I don't think Heath has enough time left to discuss the craziness of Georgia Tech. We can't figure that out. We live here.
I hit you with a lot. I'm drinking the Shadrack's coffee, Keith.
Oh, well, I'll just say this. I think Brink Key's a terrific coach, and I am curious to see Blake Gideon as a first-time defensive coordinator. Now, people seem to think he's sharp, but he's still a first-time defensive coordinator. So I'm curious to see what the transition is. That's now 3 schemes in 3 years. I'm sure he's doing what he can to keep the best parts of what Santucci did last year defensively, but you're never just going to Xerox somebody else, especially when you weren't on the staff. So where are the tweaks there? Where are the changes there? And how quickly does it show if there's an issue? Because again, first-time coordinator, you don't know whether or not a guy's going to have a learning curve. So I'm curious about that. Haynes King is a really good quarterback when he's healthy. I thought the job he did from year 1 to year 2 of tightening up the interceptions and protecting the ball better, that was important. How much more growth can he show in year 3? They do have a kid behind him, at least, that you feel like is kind of their future at quarterback. So you're not in a situation where if he gets hurt, they're just screwed. But I think expecting 12 healthy games out of King is probably pushing it. So what do you have? Because, I mean, last year he could push the ball down the field with that shoulder. He couldn't do it. So I'm real curious about them. Look, Mario Cristobal, he's out of central casting for what Miami wanted their coach to be. He's a former Cane, and he's this big, bluff, tough guy, and everything's going to be great. Well, it's not great because Mario Cristobal's a bad coach. It's as simple as that. He's a good recruiter. He's maybe a good offensive line coach, but he is not an effective head coach. And things like that fiasco against Miami where kneel the game out and you're done, and instead he runs the ball and they manage to blow that game by giving up the 2-play drive.
Yeah.
That's going to keep happening. When you've got a guy who's a bad coach, it's going to keep happening. Their talent will win them 8, 9, maybe even 10, but they're never going anywhere with that guy in charge because sooner or later you have to win big games against good teams, and that dude's not going to be able to do it.
Yeah. Another one before I go back to Frank, up at Chapel Hill, Bill Belichick. No distractions there. They're focused solely on football. Talk about that.
I mean, honestly, we don't know what a Belichick college program would be. I will say this, though. The fact that he made Freddie Kitchens the offensive coordinator is interesting to me because you chose to just stay on staff and do something, I guess, easy there. I don't love what I've seen, put it that way. But Gio Lopez supposedly is a really talented athlete at quarterback. We'll see how they mesh him together with what it is that they're doing. All the way around, I haven't seen anything that makes me say Bill Belichick genuinely is excited about being the head coach at North Carolina as a long-term project. I think Bill Belichick wants to coach football again. I don't think Bill Belichick wants to coach football at North Carolina. I think Bill Belichick took the best option that let him coach football again. I think he absolutely believed when he started this process, we'll come in, we'll win 8 or 9. I'll get back to the NFL. Somebody will definitely hire me after that. And then I'll get my Don Shula record. And I don't think
he was the Ogeron option. Just like when Ogeron came to LSU, he was the only option he had. Belichick's only opening was North Carolina. Let me tell you, the word that's, in my opinion, that comes to my mind when I think of Belichick at North Carolina, besides not being a fit, distracted. Yeah. Bill Belichick is a distracted man. I've seen his 26-year-old girlfriend. The man is distracted. Yeah. Go ask Spurrier the approach, how different it is from pro to college. You have to be focused. And the news that I'm hearing, I got a good buddy of mine that lives in Chapel Hill. He lives literally right down the street from Kenan Stadium. Belichick is not approaching this as a college football coach would. And why would he? I mean, you see Bill Belichick going in and genuflecting to some 17-year-old? The man's got, Super Bowl rings. No, I think you're right, Heath. I think it's going to be a total unknown there. And let me tell you, if they start losing, the wheels are going to come off the wagon very quickly at UNC.
Well, the one thing I'll say is their schedule will keep them from losing too much. Other than
very easy
schedule, they have a very manageable early schedule, and even TCU, who knows what they are.
Yep.
I don't see a scenario where it could be a total disaster.
Yeah.
But I also will be really surprised if it's a very high level success. It's probably going to look, in the end, not all that terribly different than maybe a Mac Brown year would have looked.
Yeah.
I think Mac Brown's going to make this look. Mac Brown's going to be head and shoulders a better second time around at North Carolina than what a Belichick gets. I think this Belichick thing is going to be a flaming disaster for North Carolina.
Yeah. I mean, there's just certain things you can see happening. You look at a program like Auburn. Why are they where they are now? The people that allowed Stephen Leath to become the president of that university back in July of 2017, he lasted 23 months, 11 days, 9 hours, 6 minutes, and 7 seconds. Too long. The $100 million mistake should never be allowed near campus, on campus, or to even say Auburn again for the rest of their natural lives. You can just see things coming, Heath. Look, I know you got a big day ahead of you. Yeah, exactly. Brian Harsin, the worst hire ever, along with Tony Barbee and Sonny Galloway, and Alan Green as AD, who hired Brian Harsin. Yeah, Curly Hallman. Heath, before you go, first off, thank you more than you know for sharing your time with us. And will you come back?
Yeah, sure.
This is a lot of fun. Tell people how they can follow you, about the show that you do, and any parting, narratives you think we need to be paying attention to that we're not talking about yet.
Heath Radio on Twitter, or wherever else you might look. Twitter's where you're more likely to see than anything else. But if you want to see pictures of Waco, I guess you could go to the Instagram for Heath Radio too. But Heath Radio for that. Chuck Oliver Show's the handle for the show itself, and we look forward to getting started next week from downtown. We got going to be taping with Clark Lee at 7 a.m. on Monday, so we're getting started as early as you can go, and hopefully we'll have a bunch of great content for folks next week.
Yep, I'm hitting the ground running. By the way, Atlanta's going to be a freaking zoo next week between SEC Media Days and the All-Star Game.
Yep.
Dude, I'm staying up here at Big Canoe. I'm not getting on any roadway anywhere near any of that stuff.
Well, don't forget, there's also a Beyonce concert.
Exactly.
And that is right by the SEC Media Days. And that is going to be enormous.
What day is that concert?
I believe they start this weekend, but there's one on Monday night. And I think there might
Lord help us. Lord help us here in Atlanta.
Wow.
We ain't got enough people running around.
Somebody asked a trivia question yesterday, though, about what concert was held in July of 1975 at the Liberty Bowl football stadium in Memphis with over 50,000 people. It was the Rolling Stones, and they had to rip all the grass out a few months later because of all the weed that was growing up in the stadium.
ZZ
yeah.
Top in Tulane Stadium in 1975. I was like, I was a ball boy for Tulane.
Yeah.
What's that smell? That's an
it,
interesting, pungent smell.
Yeah. Ooh, that smell. Heath, it's going to be an incredible week, and I look forward to meeting you in person. And this has been an absolute blast. And I will be listening to you today, 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. Eastern, Monday through Friday, folks. Watch us, listen to them either live and that podcast that y'all put out there is fantastic. And Marco's Pizza. That's all I got to say. I want a Marco's Pizza.
All right. Well, Rob and Frank, appreciate you guys, and you guys have a good day. I got to get back to Chuck here in a couple minutes. So
I got you.
Catch y'all later on.
Thank you so much.
See you.
Frank, rapid fire, man. I know Doug's on the Amalfi Coast down in South Alabama, actually in Italy. It was beautiful. Connection kind of spotty, you don't know what you're going to get. But Heath Cline, just like Dan Matthews, Chuck knows how to find talent. And Heath has been doing this a long time. I think you said 15 years, 107.5 the game over in Columbia.
And Brandon Adams before those two. BA, my good buddy from here in Atlanta, Georgia guy, has a podcast that he does about Georgia.
Yeah.
He was before them. So 3 great producers in a row.
Yeah. And it's amazing how difficult that is to do. We've got Brendan extraordinaire, and we'll be talking about something. Here comes video up on the screen. I want to thank all of you watching, man. Lots of people watching, and we are grateful more than you know. Tell your friends, your neighbors. If you think this is exciting, it just gets better every day as we get closer toward the season. But you know what? The only easy day was yesterday. We were always prepping for the next show. Right. And I want to say something real quick. We'll talk about our sponsors. Brad Bellamy, Landers Ford, is on vacation. He's at Disney World with the family right now, standing in line for days at a time.
It's a small world.
Hey, I got a friend a friend of mine paid $15,000 to have people stand in line for her. I'll do that. Hey, Landers Ford is open Monday through Saturday, 7 a.m., 7 p.m. Poplar and Houston Levy, where Germantown and Collierville meet, right here in Memphis. LandersFordMemphis.com. The 25 Expeditions, the Broncos. My wife wants a robin egg blue Bronco with red retro stripes across the front that says Ford. She said, if I buy a robin egg blue Bronco or a pink one, you'll never want to drive it in the mud and tear it up. And I said, you know what? You are right. The problem is
she'll be popular at Ole Miss. I know that when she drives through Oxford. That'll be popular.
Right. And Brad Bellamy, the general manager, will walk you through the process. He is the best. The whole staff out there, Kent Ritchie, Don Kitchens, everybody there committed to great customer service. They've got the 25 Expeditions, as we mentioned, and the service department will pick you up and take you back and forth when your vehicle is being worked on. And they're right down the street from our good friends at Hewlett and Dunn. I'm telling you, they have 4 of these left. This is the small version of the turtle box, and I've got the big one behind me, but it's magnetic. It will attach to a steel pipe. If you have a steel plate in your head, it'll work on that. It'll work on anything. My dad says I have concrete up here, so Dad, you're listening and watching, you're right. But Hewlett and Dunn is open Monday through Saturday, 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. on the historic square in Collierville, Tennessee. And I want to say a couple of things more. Bottom line, Winter Timber Outdoors, folks. They're open every day of the week in Athens, Alabama. The countdown looks like 3 weeks from today, opening a 13,000 square foot store in Auburn, Alabama. They're going to grow in the footprint. That's their goal of the Southeastern Conference. So they're coming soon to a SEC town near you. And 13,000 square foot store, everything, hunting, fishing, the outdoor life. They got it all. Clothing, St. Nick's knives, Sitka waders, Sitka gear. They have it all. And lastly, let me say something. Also, you got a dog, get hold of Web-Footed Kennels in Jonesboro, Arkansas. Chris Aiken, our good friend, he's sending us to media days. Love the guy. He's also a big part of Winter Timber. And fight back with Rumble Boxing, man. You know what, Frank? The older we get, you got to fight back. Rumble Boxing Gym, McLean and Union in Midtown Memphis. Take a picture of that QR code and fight like that little chili pepper or the jalapeno that you see, Rumble Boxing open every day of the week, sending us to media days as well. Frank, I'm so fired up after this conversation about what's going on in college football. You know, NIL, the portal, here's what's going to happen. We're going to have salary caps. That's coming. And we're going to have contracts, and you're going to get one transfer. We're going to go back to the way it used to be. This is the way it's going to be. How fired up are you about LSU at Clemson August the 30th on Saturday in Memorial Stadium, Frank Howard Field? Now, does the winner get to hold up a trophy that says, "We are Death Valley"?
No, that was done in 2019 in New Orleans in the Superdome when I think Joe Burrow threw another touchdown pass to Jamar Chase in that game. No, we settled that a while ago. By the way, you do realize that 2 of our 4 national championships, we went through Clemson in New Orleans. The Sugar Bowl in 1958 was won by LSU over Clemson. So no, that discussion's long gone. I hate to tell them that, but I am very excited. Bengal 1 is dieseled up, ready to roll.
It's still alive.
It's still alive. It's still hanging on with some purple and gold duct tape, literally on the outside. But I can't wait for this season to get started because look, we've got some incredible questions. Not one of which is, are they going to put Boudreaux's butt paste on our jersey? Because I understand we're going to be damn selling space, which is a travesty and just an injustice. I hope we don't ruin the greatest college football uniform in the world with advertising, but I know it's coming. Like you and I talked the other day, Rob. Once they opened up Pandora's box and the money started flowing, it's going to come from everywhere. But I'm excited to see what our Tigers have. Seeing my boy Nussmeier at quarterback. You know, the last 2 times we've had a fifth year starter quarterback coming in, did pretty damn good. We won 2 Heismans with him. I think the kid's a fantastic player. He just got engaged, so his wild side of being on the field, of throwing the ball all around and not doing ball protection when he first came in as a freshman and a sophomore. His maturity, you've been able to see that even in his play last year, but now in the offseason, the young man got engaged. So if he's got a very mature mindset back there in that pocket, being a pro-style quarterback who can make every throw, that's what they say about this kid. As long as he protects the ball, you could see big things. And if we get another performance out of him, thankfully, we don't have Matt House who ruined Jaden Daniels' season 2 years ago with a porous defense. We're expecting better things from Blake this year with our defense. And Kelly said, this is the most talented team I have ever had. And that's including his time in Notre Dame. So he has laid the gauntlet down for himself. And we're going to see. And look, we're 0-5 in starters, Rob. The last 5 years, you can't win them all if you don't win the first one. Yeah, and the last time we won an opener, we won them all. Yeah. So it is a big game coming up in Clemson.
Look at here. Our good friend Ken Capps is at Heathrow Airport in London. Look who we ran into. Our friend George Somerville from Touchdown UK.
Oh, love it. Yeah.
What are the odds of you running into Brad Bellamy at Oaklawn?
That's right.
In Hot Springs, Arkansas.
That's right.
I got to say this.
Small world.
Michael Jordan, love him like a brother, lives down on 30A now in Blue Mountain, sent a text out this morning, which riled up the masses. It's the Mount Rushmore of Tennessee quarterbacks. All right. Number 1 is the obvious. It was Joe Milton. No, I'm kidding. No, it was Peyton Manning at number 1. Out of Isidore Newman High School in New Orleans. Number 2 is T. Martin out of Williamson High School in Mobile, Alabama. Number 3, Heath Schuler.
And I would flip those 2.
Yeah, is Heath out of Kannapolis, North Carolina? I hope I'm right on that one. Heath Schuler was number 3. And Hendon Hooker out of Greensboro, North Carolina, via Virginia Tech to Tennessee, number 4. Now, I'll tell you the one that I would put on there, because he was so exciting. The Silva Streak. Jimmy Streeter. Touchdown, Tennessee. Give him 6. Jimmy Streeter was so exciting in the late 70s. Tennessee wasn't great, but Jimmy Streeter, was a lot of fun to watch. And maybe you could make an argument for some other guys. Jeff Olszewski out of Parma, Ohio was pretty good. Jeff Francis out of Mount Prospect, Illinois. I don't know.
I think they put T. Martin number 2 because of the national championship.
Yes. Yeah.
For the play of quarterback, though, I would flip him and Heath Schuler. Heath Schuler was an assassin on the field for Tennessee. I remember we went up and played them. I guess it was around 90, 91, somewhere in that range. I think that's when Heath was there.
He was there in the early 90s. Yeah.
Yeah, he picked us a
94. Yeah.
Now I think because it was around when
Carl Pickens was there.
Yes, correct. So I think what also has been a knock on Schuler is that he bombed when he came to the Saints. We thought we were going to get the Heath Schuler that we saw in college, and he just never made any mark in the pros. So I think that kind of hurt his legacy. But when he was running through that big old, block T, and he was coming out there and playing on a checkerboard, that man could throw, he could spin it. And he had a great accuracy. He reminded me a little of Green at Georgia. The way that he was accurate with the quarterback. He didn't have the most overpowering arm, but man, he would just put it on their receivers. And I think he would be higher in my opinion. Of course, Peyton, who I grew up, literally I could hit a 3-wood to where he and Archie and them lived uptown in New Orleans where I grew up. Peyton, of course, will be forever Tennessee. And I think also forever Tennessee, Rob, for the fact that he came back for that last year, that in many Tennessee Volunteers fans' minds cemented Peyton as always being a Volunteer. And by the way, much to the chagrin of many of my Ole Miss friends, they thought that was a unapologetic thing for them that he didn't go to Ole Miss.
Well, you think about it, St. Charles Avenue there in New Orleans where the Mannings live. My great-great-grandfather, one of them, is buried at Christ Episcopal Church there up by the altar. And a lot of history down there. And David Cutcliffe was on the show with us Monday. He has known Arch and his brother Hud since they were little kids coming up to Durham because, Cooper Manning was a badass until he had that neck injury. And
probably pound for pound the better athlete out of all 3 of the kids.
But Archie, my wife is evolved for life, but she's like, Archie's her favorite quarterback. She just loves him. And the story that John Goodman narrated, the Book of Manning, I mean, that encapsulates life in the South. And it's so powerful. And then John Ed Bradley, LSU guy, I got to go drink some road sodas with that guy.
Bobby, his younger brother is a best friend of mine. We were pledge brothers at Kappa Sigma at LSU.
I need it. We got to get him on a Friday show. His part that he played in Saturdays Down South, the 8-part series in the fall of 2019 was exemplary. Look,
he wrote the book. It Never Rains on Tiger Stadium. Again, chance of rain. Our good buddy, Dan Bornay.
Dan Bornay. Say it, Frank. We only got about a minute and a half left. What do they say before kickoff there on the loudspeakers at Death Valley? What do they say? Say it. Say it.
A chance of rain. Never.
Well, also in a few moments, the sun.
Oh, no, that's in the fourth quarter. That's not before the game.
Oh, no, say it.
In the fourth quarter. And as we approach the fourth quarter in Tiger Stadium, the sun has found its home in the western sky. And once again, it's Saturday night in Death Valley.
Holy shnikes.
Dan Bornay is a good friend of ours. As you know, I've got him on the show.
We got to get him back on. I'll tell you another one. You remember Sam Kinison, the comedian?
Oh, yeah.
Remember he's in there telling that girl, he goes, well, does anyone remember a little conflict in Southeast Asia? Yes, it was Vietnamization was the process, Richard Nixon, of getting them all to be on his side. He goes, well, that was the popular version. He goes, say it.
They'd like you to think that.
Yeah, they'd like you to think that. Look, hey, we got to wrap it up, man. For executive producer Brendan Martin, who works harder than 3 dozen Mennonite farmers, this entire crew, our guest Heath Cline, Doug Dean in the Amalfi Coast, watching it for everybody. Most often we see the face of Christ in the least among us. We're the most blessed people in the greatest country in the history of the world. Go out and help somebody today. Make something great happen. You'll never have a new reality with an old mentality. Thanks for watching. Have a great weekend. We love you. We'll see you Monday morning from Atlanta.
Eat that pasta, Dan. Eat that pasta, baby.
Go Tigers.
That's right.
Go Tigers.
Woo, Pig Suey.